right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar between Revenova Epay Manager and River City Logistics. Quick introduction. My name is Mike Marut. I'm the Director of Marketing from Revenova. Just your host today for the webinar. We'll do a quick 25-minute discussion, a few minutes left over for any questions you have. Please throw them in the Q&A section as we're talking. Happy to answer those at the end. Any that we don't get to, we'll be sure to follow up afterwards with you as well, or somebody from our team will follow up with you. But first, let's start with some introductions. Nick Lester and Macy Borman, can you introduce yourselves a little bit? Tell us what you guys do at River City Logistics.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nick Lester. I'm the Senior Director of Capacity over here at River City. And my role within the Epay Revenova world, I oversaw the integration, the implementation of both Epay and Revenova, and then now I'm working on refining everything and additional customizations.
Hi, I'm Macy Borman. I am the accounting manager here at River City. Essentially, alongside Nick here, we've just been working on, integrating the two systems together. Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Alyssa Norcross, you're up next on my counterclockwise wheel of people.
Hi, Alyssa Norcross. I work for Revenova. I'm a group product manager here. Came over about 4 years ago, and I worked at a freight forwarder, but I did their final mile LTL. So the ePay integration was near and dear to my heart because trying to keep the LTL carriers honest and not overbilling us was something that you definitely have to deal with. So at Revenova, this was one that I definitely was excited to take on. But yeah, nice to meet everyone.
All right. Finally, Jonathan J. Mack.
So
Quick intro.
I'm the older one of the groups. I'm Jonathan McCormick. I'm our Senior Vice President of Brokerage Services for both OTR Solutions and then the ePay product that we acquired a couple years ago and that we're talking about today. Been with the business for a little over 10 years now, so worn a number of different hats in our org, but today it's kind of all things freight brokerage. So whether it's our working capital and factoring products, the payments platform that we've integrated with Revenova, and then just interactions with freight brokers and our factoring arm, carrier factoring arm of the business, all kind of pots that I touch. And so I've had the pleasure of knowing Chris Brewer and Jake Shireman and the team that started River City really from the first week or two that they started the brokerage. I was kind of one of their first calls to make sure they could work with our carrier capacity. And so it's been a really awesome journey to now partner with those guys in the capacity that we are today. And, I'll give Nick and Macy both a little more credit than I think they gave themselves. I'd say they're the backbone of the growth behind River City. So they do all things collecting on the revenue that the freight brokers are moving. So yeah, good to meet you guys and excited to chat through all the workflows today.
Awesome. Well, first let's talk about the integration a little bit. Just kind of from the basics. Jonathan, we'll start with you, and then Alyssa. Tell us a little about the integration, kind of the workflows, foundation, that sort of stuff, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, totally. So, ePay Manager at its core looks to leverage a kind of proactive back office post-delivery workflow that it's ultimately driven by Revenova. So without getting too in the weeds, keep it pretty high level. We turn Revenova really into the source of truth that drives the entire carrier factoring invoicing process. So when you think about a freight movement, right, you've got an ops team or a sales floor that is tracking that movement. They know when the load's been picked up, when the truck's en route, when the freight's on side of the receiver, when the truck has been offloaded. But for the back office team, it's kind of a waiting game. You're waiting for a carrier or a factoring company to package together all these load docs and then throw them over to the team that Macy and Nick are running to field those documents, audit the documents, and ultimately build the customer. So it's a very reactive workflow traditionally. Like I said at the beginning, though, ePay leverages more of a proactive process driven by Revenova. So to use kind of general terms, when the ops floor or the sales floor moves the load into some form of a delivered status via an API that we've worked with Alyssa and team to develop, we capture all the most up-to-date carrier quote and customer quote details. We pull those into ePay, and then we proactively reach out to the payee on the load, so the carrier factor, to notify them that invoice number 123 has been created by River City. Carrier or factor gets that notification. They log into their ePay system. They review the invoice. As long as they agree with the charges, which 9 times out of 10 they will, because it's your most up-to-date freight charges, they're going to upload their delivery documents into the system. At that point in time, we've got an AI product inside of ePay that'll run a first pass audit for the River City, for the brokerage team. classify the documents, alert you of any potential exceptions, OS&D, missing pages, mismatch amounts, etc., and then deliver those results to the team. Number of different configurations that could take place as far as automation goes to auto approve documents, auto approve a payable, or build a customer. But to kind of oversimplify it, the River City team would review the results from us, say, yep, looks good to go. And once they approve it inside of our platform is when we pass everything back to Revenova. So that's documents, status updates, amounts, maybe some changes that took place. And then we trigger the customer billing process either via Revenova, or Epay has some configurations as well that could be leveraged to kind of complement what happens in the Revenova workflow. So to kind of recap at a really high level, because I know I did a lot of talking there, load gets marked delivered, Revenova passes us all the details into the Epay system. We proactively go out, capture the load documents, pull them in, audit them, allow the River City team to review the results. They approve it inside of Epay. We push all updates back into the Revenova platform to kind of complete that life cycle of that load, if that makes sense. And again, obviously, I did a lot of talking, so Alyssa, feel free to fill in any gaps that you feel are relevant.
Yeah. No, I think that was excellent. I think essentially one of the big things about Revenova is one, we have the open API because we are built on Salesforce. So we got this awesome request to partner with Epay, who obviously is a leader in their field. And so instead of Revenova trying to reinvent the wheel, we really wanted to work with them, use their incredible tools that they already have, and just integrate that into the workflow that our users are looking for. And so obviously that was with feedback from the River City team and some other customers that are also using it. But again, I think Jonathan hit it on the head. It's really just trying to combine both the power of Revenova and the power of Epay, and just getting it to the user's hands when they need it and where they need it.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's a great point. Kind of one comment I'll add, and then I'll shut up, is that the infrastructure that the Revenova team has in place on the back end allowed us to do a number of different things. When we think about a freight brokerage and the workflow I just described, I generalize it a ton, but if there's 500 Revenova freight brokers, there's 500 different ways that you're moving freight, right? And so for us, it was an awesome opportunity to work with Alyssa and team to say, hey, let's build this for what we think is kind of the best use case, best case scenario. But then as we have the River Cities come in and the other brokers that maybe need it a little bit differently, there's a ton of configurability behind how the platforms can interact with each other. So definitely want to kind of shout that out and give the Revenova team credit, is that you guys have put a foundation into place that allowed us to build on top of it to really make the workflow as powerful as possible for the client, instead of asking the client to fit into what we think was. That makes sense.
Yeah, I love that point. We always say on the product team at Revenova, there's always an exception. So, there's no right or wrong way to do it. And it's just, you have to build it to be flexible enough that it works for everyone's, unique use cases. And I'm sure the River City team knows if the customer is demanding it in X way, you're going to do it in that way, no matter what. So we have to build the software to be that flexible as well.
So on that point, Nick and Macy, what has been your experience so far, using this integration, using Epay, using Revenova? I know that, you mentioned that, Nick, you were part of that team to bring it on. Macy, you use it very, very a lot, I should say. So what's been your experience so far?
I guess overall big picture, really first and foremost in terms of, what we were looking for and the things that we were hoping to achieve. Big picture, really, clearly Epay is one of the, most well-known platforms in terms of carriers, factoring companies, all that good stuff. So that's truly what we were looking for, to, form that partnership and have the support and the technology to, scale our processes, and all that good stuff. So we're off to a good start.
Yeah, and I think to add to that piece of it, one of the biggest objectives we were trying to achieve from the leadership down is being able to save headcount, being able to do more with the people we have, not by making it more difficult for everybody, but by making it easier for everybody. And we could see pretty quickly between Revenova and through Epay that was something that we were going to be able to do. So touching on your guys' points about the integration and the flexibility, it has been incredible to be able to say, hey, we want these custom things in here. We, on the Revenova side, getting the opportunity to be able to make something, hey, I need this, I use this all the time, and I can create that and have that on their page in 45 seconds, wonderful. The ePay side, us being able to say, hey, we want this data to be ingested. We want it to be ingested like this in this format. It's been great. And then being able to utilize some of our other vendor integrations to be able to pull some of that carrier information, put a factor on it before we even know that they delivered the load has been a real help.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would agree. Excuse me. I think one of the best parts of ePay really so far too is that kind of going off of what Nick said is the visibility to the carrier, right? From our perspective, not only to, like you said, save on the head count and but I mean really that's our days to pay, right? If we can bill and pay faster, streamline that activity in terms of one touch on the back end for my team through ePay, we're really ahead of the game. So and kind of along with that too, in terms of like streamlining our processes, I actually shared this in a meeting yesterday. We've been able to really, I'm sure Nick will kind of touch on this, but with some of the efficiency that Revenova has provided in terms of combining our asset division and our brokerage division, my team has been able to cross-train each other. So things that we normally would have had, one person handling this section, one person handling the brokerage, all that good stuff. We're now able to really mimic the same process across the board. So we're seeing a lot of efficiency that way as well.
Yeah, it sounds like just staying consistent has been super important and super helpful for you guys for sure. So what were some of the challenges that you were looking to solve? I mean, you mentioned, trying to do more with the same head count of people. But what were some of what were you trying to solve with these integrations, with going with ePay, going with Revenova?
Yeah, Macy, if you want to talk about the ePay piece.
Again, I think really just the carrier visibility is probably one of the biggest things. And I think, again, we've been able to cut down on, we're all from the space, so we probably are familiar with carrier rate verification, phone calls, payment status updates. We've really been able to cut down on the time that we're spending, doing those kinds of things when they can just pop into the portal and say, oh, it's in there, or the factoring company doesn't have to call us. They can do their own thing. It really allows my team to spend more time on the things that are important. So I think that was a big thing that really sold us on this. And then I guess too, I think just really the partnership kind of like, again, you've been talking about some of the integration pieces on, the ops end where like on our end, we had it again at the beginning, we had an issue with carriers importing into ePay, but I mean, it was really no problem. Both teams were eager to get down to the problem, figure it out, do any testing that was necessary. So I think it's just, again, in the long run, looking for a partner, that's going to be with you through the whole thing, not just at the onboarding and then drop you. So.
Yeah, and with the ePay piece, before moving on to Revenova, one of the things we were also really focused on was what that carrier experience was going to be like. I think a lot of times the carriers are just secondary, very transactional in a lot of the brokerage space, but we wanted to make sure that carriers really enjoyed working with us and it was an easy process and they were going to want to continue to work with us again, and they would, establish a relationship that would be able to take us from, hey, they run this lane for this much money to, hey, we can have those flexible talks. It's a lot more palatable when they say, hey, we don't have to worry about the piece of getting our money, right? And the other thing that I really have come to love about ePay is that it, instead of having it be this carrier has this factor, this carrier also has this factor, this doing it very individual on the carrier level. I really like the fact that ePay is, hey, this is the factor, here's all the carriers that are involved with them. So it becomes a lot easier and a lot more efficient and a lot more digestible for sure. When it comes to the Revenova piece, our very, very overarching goal here was to be able to find a system that fit the solutions of both our fleet and our brokerage. With the growth we've had on both divisions over the last year, we had a situation or a decision to make when it came to being able to have everything on one. And that piece has been incredible, and then has really achieved the objective. Us being able to say, hey, we tender one of our broker loads to our fleet. They now are interacting in the exact same load. Right? They see different things, they have visibility to different things, but it's not, and no more telephone, no more going back and forth, no going back and forth between two systems. So that's been a really big piece, and that was really the number one thing we were looking for. And then the other piece of it was just asking ourselves, if we want to change something, what does that look like, right? And a lot of times through a lot of different TMSs, that's a enhancement request. That is they're waiting for an update, things like that. Whereas a lot of the things we want to do now, we can do very, very quickly.
Sure.
Yeah, I think one
So,
comment I'll add just to the carrier and factor visibility, and this is actually me kind of putting my factoring company hat on, right? Because I spent so much time on that side of the house. I mentioned at the beginning, but we just acquired Epay 2 years ago. So the platform was in the space for close to 20 years prior to that. We were a longtime user of all the things that Nick and Macy were just describing of I need to invoice a broker. I need to collect on this invoice. I need to verify this rate. I need to check my pay status. If something's short paid, if something happened, how did I handle it, right? And when you think about it from a carrier or factoring company point of view, when the load is perfect, it's great, right? We invoice the broker and we move on with our day, but that's not most of the time, right? Or maybe it's not fair to say it's not most of the time, but a lot of the time there's an issue. Where as a factoring company, we were able to leverage Epay for the other brokers on the platform to say, okay, this is what's going on with this invoice and save that phone call. It's not that I don't want the OTR factoring team to have a great relationship with River City, but I want them only having to talk when they really need to talk. If we're having to reach out to a freight broker about something that we could just easily pull from inside of a platform, that saves all of us time, right? And then it just has all your interactions as a factor broker being more impactful and more meaningful, right? Let's actually solve a problem that exists. Now let's bother each other to try to find something to solve for something that isn't there. So that's kind of my thought as a factoring company trying to be as objective as possible. It's part of the reason we acquired the platform was that we actually love being a user of the platform to collect our receivables.
love it. Well, on that note, Nick and Macy I think you both kind of touched on this, but how do payment timelines and back office processes influence your carrier relationships and just overall growth strategy?
I mean, again, from my perspective on the accounting end, my team has always been very, we also deal with brokers on the asset side. So we know what it feels like to not get the best communication, not get responses, all of that stuff. So we've always been very communication forward. So I think it really just allows us to amplify that even more. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's so many different factors, and with so many of us as brokers trying to get out there and capture the market and be able to service our customers, there's got to be something different. And then for us, our big piece of service, but these little things really, really matter to a lot of these carriers. That when they call, somebody's going to answer, but the big best piece of Epay, in my opinion, from that perspective, is that a carrier will generally not even see any of that. They'll submit it to their factoring company. The factoring company will take care of it on the Epay side. They'll never have to worry about it, but they know that we are on top of it. We're working with their factoring company. Their factoring company has complete visibility to it. And then those carriers who are direct pay through, not using any factoring, being able to go in there, to being able to approve it, being able to have a little bit more control than I think what many others are offering out there, I think is a big plus that a lot of our carriers enjoy as kind of a little value add for sure.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, we do definitely pride ourselves on some of the quick pay carriers that we have. So again, that was kind of always a big process that we had to go through, really in any circumstance, let alone what platform. But I think that Epay has really given us the power to say, especially during our peak time when these carriers that are direct pay and, it's one person trying to figure out how to invoice 50 loads at a time, it makes it so much easier when they can pop in there, upload all the PODs, upload their invoicing, and on their way. They get their money so much faster. So
Yeah, I
So,
agree. Sorry, I agree with kind of everything they were saying. The one I wanted to kind of help bridge how Revenova makes all of that possible as well, there, right? So, I love that, Nick and Macy have kind of feel and see everything that the carrier interacts with, as far as ePay goes. But none of the ePay process works without Revenova feeding us the proper data, right? And so when again, I talked about it when I explained how the integration, functions. But when you're constantly reacting to just bills and documents and emails that are flying over from carriers and factoring companies, it's very tough to structure all that mess into an actionable workflow, right? And so being able to begin our process first with the Revenova data and the connection we have with the platform allows for it to flow into the ePay workflow they've been describing and say, here's the proper carrier on the load first and foremost. Let's assign this transaction to that carrier. Now, this carrier or factor is the only party that has the ability to invoice me. It eliminates duplicates, it eliminates junk, it just eliminates a lot of the noise that a brokerage is dealing with, when they use, again, more of a reactive process that's email driven. And so, really everything that Macy and Nick have been describing are possible for us to do together because of Revenova feeding us the data in the way that they do and the real-time connection between the systems that, Nick made a comment earlier about how when you ask for a change with a lot of other platforms, it's, yeah, let me get back to you in a week, right? Well, with Revenova, we've been able to do everything so quickly that when there is a problem and there's an issue, we fix it, very fast. But even just the normal course of doing business is all very real time, or at least near real time of transactions and data flowing back and forth. So that's what makes a lot of what the platform does for carriers and factors possible, and just it overall increases everybody's user experience.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good point because there have been a lot of times where it's been, hey, we want this, we want a change to ePay. Oh, well, where do we grab that information from? Where do we, within the API, what's the payload showing? Things like that. And for us to be able to say, oh, that doesn't exist anywhere. Give us a minute. Whether it be a formula field or flows, or be able to kind of automate that stuff and say, hey, here's the field you need to pull from now. That will contain the information that you need to help drive this solution. That has been a massive, massive help.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that goes to, sorry, Alyssa, again, I know I keep talking too much, so I'll try to shut up. But the one comment I wanted to add, everything that you guys are describing is reliant on a team that is truly an expert at what their platform does and what this industry needs. I think in today's world, technology is getting stronger and stronger and better, but our industry is always going to need people that understand, the freight movement and understand the process and what it needs to look like today, tomorrow, 6 months from now, 2 years from now, right? And so that's what, from my point of view, has been extremely impressive about the Revenova group, as well as obviously, the River City team, is that we've got a core working group together that doesn't say, hey, I've got this problem, you go figure it out. It's, hey, we all have this problem, how do we fix it together? And I just think that's the experience and knowledge set that both or all three teams have been able to keep, in-house through this process and ongoing workflows.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been really fun. Even just this conversation is bringing back some bad memories and some good memories. But I definitely experienced some of what you guys are talking about as like previous pain points. But I think like working with the team, and like we obviously learn a lot from our customers because the logistics changes so quickly. And so being able to understand like what are the pain points and how can we approach those, and being able to come together and work with Jonathan and the ePay team. I mean, they had I always felt outnumbered, but there would be like 10 of them on every call ready to jump in and,
Yeah.
like fix everything. So they were great to work with. And not to talk bad about any partners, they're all great, but the ePay team really went above and beyond. So it's always, nice to work with a team like that for sure.
I don't think we've been in a meeting that has had less than six people
Yeah.
from the ePay team.
They show up big, that's for sure.
We're a bunch of junkies. We love to fix problems. So
So we only got a few minutes left here, so I want to take this question from the crowd first. Specifically for Nick, how has the integration impacted underlying carrier relationships and sourcing capacity?
We're talking about the ePay.
Yeah, the ePay and Revenova integration. How does it impact underlying carrier relationships and sourcing capacity?
Yeah, I think we talked, quite a bit about the carrier relationship piece of it. But In terms of sourcing capacity, I think it's incredibly helpful to know that they're going to be good within ePay, and they're going to be able to get set up. One of the cool things within ePay is that if a carrier is a direct, they're not part of a factor, is that we're able to just hop in there, and it has a list of every carrier registered with the DOT and the FMCSA, and can just add them straight from there. So knowing that, hey, no matter who they are, no matter what, how they want to get paid, what they want to do, we can work with them. So when we are doing our sourcing, that's never a thought on anybody's mind that anybody's going to say, hey, we can't do this because we don't know how to pay them. So it's a very, very simple, very easy process that kind of eliminates that thought when we are going through any sort of sourcing.
Sweet.
Yeah, I think that's one comment Macy made earlier as well, just thinking about how River City has a good core group of carriers that want to take advantage of their quick pay offering. We have always, and I say we on the ePay side, we've always tried to configure our platform to be very user friendly for the carrier. So a simple example, if a carrier logs into our UI and they need to change a payment term, right? Because it's Wednesday and they've got insurance due on Friday, instead of them having to call and bother the broker on the load or the River City back office team and say, hey, can you enroll me into a quick pay, offering on this individual load? They can do it at the load level inside of the platform, click of a button, it's automated, it's processed, and we pass all that feedback back to the Revenova platform. So I think to the question, from the crowd of carrier relationships is that every innovation that we think about on the ePay side for brokers, we're at the same point in time thinking about it for the carrier experience as well, and have done a number of different things to just try to make their life easier for the fringe use cases and the one-off exceptions and things like that. And so, I agree with everything Nick said. I want to kind of add that comment that we try to make the payment experience for the carrier as seamless as possible as well. So from the point of pickup to delivery to payment being received, they love the overall experience they have with River City in general.
Sweet. Well, we've only got 2 minutes here, so I wanted to leave some space for any closing thoughts. We'll start with Nick and Macy. Anything else you guys wanted to add before we say goodbye this afternoon? Anything else that we didn't talk about that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, I think from my perspective of this is I would certainly be remiss if we didn't talk about what some people might be here for today, and that's to hopefully get some assurance of maybe you're looking at a different payment platform, maybe you're looking at a different TMS, and you're worried because it might be too difficult. You might have something good going and they have some issues, but it's easier to stay. It's easier to just stay status quo because it might be difficult. It might be a situation where you're scared that you don't have the resources or anything like that. It certainly, through both of these processes, was incredibly easy to talk through this, work through it. When I first came on, with Revenova being built on Salesforce, I had zero Salesforce knowledge. And now I'm able to operate through these things at lightning speed and use flows and do the things that are making our team more efficient, and be able to quickly do things for our team that can get them into a better spot. So that would be my parting thought here is that if you are on this call and you are thinking about it, I do think that if you're worried about the time, the resources, the energy, and that might be keeping you from doing it, that really isn't something to worry about because got to give her flowers. Our implementation contact on the Revenova side was Stephanie Wilson, and she was incredible, made it all so easy, worked with us, knows a ton, and that was awesome. Do you want to?
Yeah, I honestly kind of piggybacking off of that to also give some flowers to Nick and Mackenzie at Epay on my end. They're ready to answer my questions at any given time of the day. And I just really, again, appreciate all the time that they're willing to give, just knowing that we're working towards the same, result. So.
Yeah. And to touch on something we didn't touch on very quickly here, one of the best pieces of ePay within this situation has been their AI document reader. We were shocked at how perfectly it functioned, how little errors there were, where a factor may dump 10 different documents combined into one PDF. with your carrier invoice, your notice of assignment, your POD, your lumper receipt, all those different things. It's reading it, it's making sure that it is what it is. It's making sure that it's valid, it matches whatever else is brought in through the Revenova integration, and it is telling you, hey, is there a signature? Is there a stamp here showing it was received? Is there damage noted? Anything like that? And then sections it out, spits it back into Revenova in individual documents, classify how they need to. And I do think that is something that I definitely want to make sure that doesn't go untalked about, because that was something that we could not believe the first time we saw it.
And I'm a skeptic always, because we know what happens if things get misbilled and mispaid. So, and it's tried and true.
I love it.
Well,
All right, so 30 seconds or less.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll tell you the AI piece. I'm naturally a skeptic as well. At that product, we train on our factoring side. It took me years to get to the point where I wanted to trust it. So I'm very glad to hear that you had that to say. We actually love the vendor we partner with so much. We just acquired that company as well, a little over a month ago. So we love where it is today, but we're never satisfied with it. So we're going to continue making it stronger and stronger. My only thoughts and add on everything else to say there is just that I get change management is not easy. We try to make it as easy as possible. There's always bumps in the road. There's always things that you're going to encounter. But to the point that I made about just the teams that are in place, whether it's the Revenova group or the implementation team on the Epay side, we put the resources and time and energy into these processes for each unique client to make sure that it's a success. It's truly a non-negotiable for us, and that's how we approach every change.
Sweet. Alyssa, any final thoughts?
The only thing I'll say is thank you guys. And Nick, I liked your comment. I'm an adult trying to learn how to ski, and it's difficult. But last time I was out there, I took a lesson, and the instructor told me face your fear. My fear is going down the mountain. So anyone out there that's looking to do the change, face your fear. It works out. The bottom of the mountain usually has some nice champagne or booze. We're always there to celebrate. But thank you guys. It's always nice to hear from customers, and obviously great partners like Epay.
Cool. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. This session was being recorded, so we will be sure to share that through River City, through Revenova, and through Epay Manager OTR Solutions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your Revenova reps, your Epay OTR reps. Happy to answer any questions that may be lingering or that you didn't want to throw in the chat today. Otherwise, thank you everyone, and have a great rest of your week.